Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Sasuke gave his Sharingan to Naruto before he died, Naruto x Sakura, Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. To say Haru was nervous would have been a gross understatement, he wanted to run. Run and keep running. The only thing that kept him there was the feeling of his two teammates and captain's eyes on him. He wanted to be strong, make them proud, but this guy looked unlike anything he'd ever fought. It was intimidating, and a little scary. Haru's legs were shaking, his palms were sweating, and he was getting hotter and hotter as he got more and more nervous. He glanced up at Naruto, whose face was blank and unreadable. Secret envy welled up inside him. He wished he could be cool and collected all the time. He shifted his gaze to Sakura, who looked a bit worried. Oddly enough, this caused Haru's envy of Naruto to grow. Sakura looked worried. Why couldn't Naruto worry about him? He turned back to look at his enemy. The black holes where he should have had eyes made him extremely uneasy. So he resorted to the only thing he knew. He dropped his gaze to the man's waist. Worry gripped at Naruto's heart as he watched Haru. He wasn't ready for this. Naruto knew that. Haru's close combat skills had improved during the 2 months he'd been with Sakura and Naruto, but not by much. He had the demon wind, so that would help a bit, but he still wasn't a very good fighter. This was going to be interesting. He watched as the two squared off, eyeing each other, waiting for the other to make a move. The black-eyed man's fingers twitched. Haru whipped the demon wind off his back, drawing and opening it up in a single move. He threw the large weapon at his opponent and raced at him, drawing a kunai. Black Eyes ducked the spinning weapon and came up running. Haru snatched the blade out of the air as it arced and came back to him. Wielding the demon wind in his right hand and the kunai in his left, he clashed with his enemy. The man caught both of his wrists to stop his attack. Almost instantly Haru felt his energy levels drop. He jumped off his feet and planted them on the man's chest, pushing off. The man's grip on his wrist broke and he sailed 15 feet before landing on his back. Nice move, praised Naruto as Haru dragged himself back to his feet as Black Eyes charged him. Haru desperately threw the shuriken at the man, trying to keep him at bay. The man simply dodged around it and continued his advance. Haru leapt away, trying to put distance between them. He couldn't afford to have the man make contact with him. His touch seemed to drain his energy. The man followed him. Haru caught the shuriken and snapped it closed just in time to block an attack. Haru looked back in his eyes and instantly regretted it. They made him so nervous. He pushed away, backing up even more. The man didn't follow this time. Haru sagged a bit. The charka the man had drained had taken a toll on him. He needed to end this quickly. Haru is on the retreat, said Kakashi. He need to go on the offensive. Naruto glanced up at his sensei before returning his gaze back to the fight. But we know that Haru's combat skills aren't that great, he said. He's going to need to do something drastic. Naruto leaned against the railing, absent-mindedly scratching the bandaged side of his face. He hadn't had the chance to change them during the second test and they were really dirty. But he couldn't do anything about it now. Haru was fighting and wasn't doing well at all. Haru threw the shuriken at the man again, trying to see if he could throw him off balance. Don't you have any other tricks? Asked the man as he leapt over it. Haru gritted his teeth. I have to do it, he thought, but I'm still not very good at it. I could mess up. I could get hurt. Just as he decided not to do it, a scene flashed through his mind. Flashback. Haru ran through the woods, the enemy ninja hot on his trail. This was not good. He could get away. His toe caught a rock and with a cry of pain he fell to the ground. He turned over and gazed at the ninja in fear as they stood over him, weapons gleaming in the subtle sunlight that crept through the trees. One of them carried a long pole arm with a crescent blade draped over his shoulder. Haru watched him raise it over his head and closed his eyes, waiting for the end. He was met with a grunt of pain. Snapping his eyes back open, he saw a person standing in front of him in a blood-red shirt and shaggy blonde hair. Naruto. He said stunned. What are you doing here? Naruto turned to look over his shoulder. In his eye Haru saw a look of disgust. Drawing his two kunai, Naruto charged directly at the men. In 30 seconds the men were on the ground, of them dead or quickly approaching it. Naruto cleaned his blades on the clothing and sheathed them before turned to Haru and helping him up. Why are you here? Asked Haru. Naruto said nothing, he was just staring into the sky. What if you got hurt? What if they had taken you prisoner? What if? As ninja, we are not allowed the luxury of, what if? Naruto cut across him. Haru fell silent. Do not say that phrase again, all it will do is cause you to hesitate. If you hesitate on a mission, someone's going to end up dead. Haru looked at the ground ashamed in himself. Naruto finally looked at him. Haru, you are ninja. In wearing the headband on your forehead you've accepted the mantle of the Hidden Leaf Village, said Naruto. You and I are genin, the future of our village. We don't have time to screw around, we must advance and take the defense of our village onto our shoulders and help Kakashi-sensei. Never hesitate again. End flashback. It didn't take a genius to know that Naruto had been thinking about the time he'd hesitated while fighting Haku with Sasuke. Haru's resolve hardened. No, he thought. No dwelling on what might happen, he sheathed the kunai and caught the demon wind. Then threw it with all his might. It arced high into the air, too high. While everyone, including his opponent, watched the shuriken, Naruto and Kakashi watched Haru flash through hand signs. Then he sank into the ground. Earth-type huh, said Kakashi. The black-eyed man watched the demon wind fly high over his head before turning back to Haru, a jeer on his lips. It died on his tongue however when he saw the young man was gone. Then to everyone's disbelief 10 Harus raised out the ground. Earth clones, said Naruto to Sakura when she gave him a look of confusion. Realization dawned on her and she looked back down at the match. The black-eyed man didn't seem to know what to do. He gazed around trying to find the really one. Having, said one. Some, said another one. Trouble, said a third, but they said it in such quick succession it came out, having some trouble. Naruto watched as the clones converged on the man all wielding kunai. There was a massive dust cloud as the man destroyed some of them, but when it all cleared, Haru stood triumphant. Hayate walked over and knelt next to the man and checked him. The winner is Haru Muri, he said. Woohoo! Yelled Sakura. Naruto nodded in approval as Haru looked up at them. He soon joined them on the catwalk looking tired but happy. Naruto turned to face him, a small smile playing on his lips. He stuck out his hand. Haru let out a small gasp before taking Naruto's hand in a handshake. They heard the board on the wall start to cycle through names again. They all turned to look at it. It ended on Zaku of the Sound Village and Shino Aburame. The two leapt to the floor. The guy Zaku looked up at Naruto and gave him a glare. His arms were in a sling. How does he plan to fight with his arms in a sling? Thought Haru aloud. Well, said Zaku, it looks like I've got a little movement in this one. He pulled his left arm out of the sling and pointed it at Shino. Shino didn't so much as draw his hands out of his jacket pockets. Without warning, Zaku blasted a huge sound wave at Shino. When the dust cleared, Shino stood tall, bugs covering his entire body. Gross, said Sakura. What is he? In the village hidden in the leaf there is a clan of bug masters, said Kakashi, the Aburame. When one of them is born they enter a secret pact with the insects, he provides them with a nest and food and in return they fight for him. A nest and food? Asked Haru. What do you mean? He gulped, having a good idea what Kakashi was talking about. His body and his chakra, said Kakashi. Though he did show it, Naruto wanted to throw up, the thought made him nauseous. The insects flowed off Shino and swarmed Zaku. Naruto turned away and leaned on the rail, crossing his arms over his chest. It's over, he said. No sooner than he finished, Zaku let out a terrible scream as the bugs swarmed over him, devouring his chakra. That was so gross, said Sakura. Naruto gazed around and saw that was the general belief. Zaku was carted off by the medical corp. After a brief intermission, the board started cycling names again. It ended on the shinobi in the stupid cat-eared hood from the Sand Village and Haru's opponent's teammate. The Sand Ninja, Kankuro, took the large thing wrapped in bandages off his back, holding it out to his side. His opponent attacked him and threw a single punch which Kankuro easily blocked. Then the guy's arms snaked up Kankuro's. In no time at all the man had his limbs wrapped around Kankuro with one arm wrapped around his neck. "Oh man," said Sakura, "first a human bug hive, now this." Naruto could help but agree with her. There was a loud crack and Naruto knew Kankuro's neck had just been broke. Hayate took a step forward like he was going to stop fight. Then Kankuro twitched, and head spun a 180. Haru made a wrenching sound. Then the thing Kankuro had dropped burst open, revealing a second Kankuro. The first Kankuro sprouted 4 more arms for a total of 6 and wrapped them tightly around his enemy. After a few seconds of struggling, the man gave and the match ended. "Geez," muttered Naruto, one weirdo after another. The board stopped the 2 names. Naruto glanced up at it. Not good, he thought. Ino and Sakura, despite what they said, the two still cared for each other. Sakura and Ino both seemed to have froze. They glanced at each other, seemed to hesitate, before the looks hardened. They joined each other on the ground, glaring at each other. "All right," said Hayate, "you may begin." Sakura raced straight at Ino and threw a hard punch at her face. Ino dodged her head out of the way, but before she could counter, Sakura grabbed the back of her head and yanked it down at the same time, bring her right knee up hard. Ino's head snapped back and she stumbled back, a look of shock on her face. Because Team 7 hadn't spent a lot of time around the rest of the rookies, Sakura's growth was wildly and unknown. So the look of shock on everyone's faces came as no surprise to Naruto as he glanced around, a small smirk on his face and a feeling of pride in his chest. Sakura kicked Ino hard in the gut. Ino backed up, clutching at her stomach. "How?" she gasped out. "How did you get so strong?" Sakura smirked. "How? It's called hard work, Ino. After the land of the waves, my total inability to do anything at all spurred me to get stronger, so that the next time we face an enemy I'll be a help, not a liability." With that she started hand signs. Though no one but Kakashi knew it, Sakura was a power genjutsu type ninja with a water affinity. Because of her great chakra control, she could cast water jutsu even if there was no water around by simply turning her chakra in the water for the jutsu. However, it was significantly weaker than if she used nature's water. Her chakra still got the job done though. Water style. Water bullets. She held her hands open towards Ino and launched massive bullets of water at Ino, 20 in rapid succession. Ino dropped to one knee. Sakura stood over her, a kunai in her hand. "Okay, Sakura," she said, "I give, you win." Naruto gave a small fist pump by his hip. The gesture was missed by all but Kakashi. Naruto glanced at the rest of the rookies. They all had looks of amazement on their faces. It didn't surprise him. Ino was widely considered to be one of the best female ninja in their age group. However, Sakura had beaten her with minimal effort. Sakura held her hand out to Ino and helped her up. The two watched each other for a minute. Sakura gave her a smile, a real smile. "Just hang in there, Ino," she said. "If I can do it, so can you." Together they climbed the stairs and joined the rest of the Leaf Genin. Ino left to join her team and Sakura joined Naruto and Haru. "Well, 2 out of 3, said Kakashi, "we'll go for a sweep, be ready Naruto." They all gave him a small smile. "Right," he said. Suddenly Sakura slumped against the wall and slid down it to the ground. Naruto knelt next to her. "You okay?" he asked in a quiet voice. Sakura gave him a reassuring smile. "I'm okay," she said. "The chakra I used for the genjutsu in the forest hadn't fully replenished when I used the water jutsu. I'm just tired." She gave him another tired smile, touched by his concern. Naruto nodded, returning her smile with a small one of his own. Before he stood up, he pulled her into a hug and quietly so only she could hear, said. I had faith in you, I knew you would win. That said, he stood up and stepped back up the railing to watch the next match. The two opponents had already been chosen. Tenten and Tamari. Tenten leapt away, and her team started cheering, loudly. Naruto had to cover his ears. The two stood staring at each other. Tamari goaded Tenten into attacking. Tenten leapt into the air and threw 6 shuriken at Tamari. They flew straight and on target, then suddenly they stopped and dropped to the ground. Naruto blinked for a minute, then it dawned on him. Wind, he thought. It's over. Haru looked at him in shock. How can you say that? He demanded. Tenten is a fellow leaf ninja, we must believe in her. Naruto looked at him. Don't be stupid, Haru, he said. Believe me, I would like to see Tenten win. It's bad luck really. Tamari is the one person so far who could actually beat her. It's over, Haru, just watch. Tamari unfurled her fan and swung it, causing a huge vortex that lifted Tenten into the air. Wind slice at the helpless girl before she fell hard onto Tamari's collapsed fan. The winner is Tamari, said Hayate. An evil grin crossed Tamari's face. She tossed Tenten at the weapons she had used. Lee leapt into the battle area and caught her. Nice catch, she said. Now take that pathetic piece of garbage out of here. What did you say? He demanded. He gently set Tenten down and looked like he was about to charge the girl, when Naruto suddenly appeared in front of him, his arms stretched out in front of Lee, his one-eyed gaze locked onto Tamari. Everyone gasped. When did he get so fast? Thought Sakura. Naruto. Thought Kakashi. What are you playing at? Lee, don't, said Naruto, she's not worth your time, take Tenten to Gai-sensei. Lee was stunned by Naruto's sudden appearance. Right, he said and carried her off. Naruto stood and glared at Tamari. She broke eye contact and turned to join her teammates. Naruto followed Lee. When they reached the top, Kakashi pulled Naruto aside. Naruto, what are you doing? He demanded. What do you mean? Asked Naruto, confused. Your unknown growth is an advantage, he said. Why show it now in a rush to stop Lee? Naruto hesitated. Don't be so hasty to show off, wait until the match. Yes, sir, Naruto said dejectedly. Kakashi gave him a one-eyed smile and patted him on the shoulder. I know you're eager to test yourself, he said gently, but don't let that eagerness compromise you. Naruto nodded and walked back to Haru, a bit ashamed of himself. Everything all right? Asked Haru. Yeah, said Naruto quietly. Sakura stood up and joined them. You sure you're okay to be moving around, Sakura? She gave him a smile. I'm fine, she said. Besides, they're getting towards the end. I don't want to miss your match. She gave him a small smile and slipped her hand into his, and gave it a small squeeze. Sakura knew it was the only show of affection Naruto would allow right now. Shikamaru and Kin were the next two to fight. Their fight started off slow, but that was to be expected with anything involving Shikamaru. Kin threw 2 Senbon at Shikamaru, who quickly dodged them. There were bells attached. That simple trick? Asked Naruto. Next Shield threw Senbon with bells and Senbon without. Shikamaru started dodging all the Senbon, before he suddenly froze. Genjutsu, said Sakura. What? Gasped Naruto, snapping his gaze up to Sakura. It looks like this is one that affects his ears, she said. I guess that's surprising considering what village she's from. Kin threw 3 Senbon. Shikamaru managed to cover up just in time. It's amazing he can even move, she said. Suddenly all action stopped. Kin's face had a look of horror on it. He got her, said Naruto. Shikamaru pulled a shuriken out of his pouch, which was mirrored by Kin. Are you crazy? Demanded Kin. Oh come on, it's be fun, said Shikamaru, like a game of chicken, let's see whose ducks first. He threw the shuriken at her. The 2 shuriken raced at their targets. Just as it reached him, Shikamaru bent over backwards. Kin mirrored him, and bashed her head on the wall. The wise shinobi properly scouts the battlefield and is always aware of his position on it, he said. The match was over. After he joined the rest, the wall on the boarded began to cycle through names, until finally it landed on Naruto and Kiba. "It's us against the kid Akamaru," shouted Kiba. He leapt down and ran to the far side waiting for Naruto. Naruto straightened and started walking towards the stairs. Kakashi stopped him. "Naruto," he said, "only use it as a last resort, but I'm giving you permission to use it." Naruto gave him a short nod and continued to the stairs. As he left, Sakura was giving Kakashi an uneasy look. All around them were words of pity for Naruto. "Oh man, Naruto doesn't have a chance," said Ino. "Kiba is so lucky," said Choji. And Kurenai looked pretty smug, like the match was already over. "Don't worry, Sakura," he smiled. "He ready. Naruto and I haven't just been goofing off the last 6 months." Haru was glancing back and forth between them, confused. "He had faith in you, both of you. Now have faith in him." They both nodded and turned to watch. "Now your chance, Naruto," he thought. "Show them all how much you've grown." Naruto stood across from Kiba, his face ever stoic. "Sorry, Naruto," he said, "nothing personal." With that he dropped onto all fours, his teeth and fingernails elongating. Ninja art. Beast mimicry. He vanished only to reappear with his elbow buried deep in Naruto's gut. Naruto's body absorbed the shot and he flew several feet, landing hard on his back. "Oh no!" exclaimed Haru. In the 5 months he'd known him, Haru had never seen Naruto take a solid hit. Naruto was still for a second. Kido was about to turn to Hayate when he stirred. He turned back to Naruto, a look of disbelief on his face. Naruto was up and running, both kunai in his hand. Kiba let out a growl and charged at Naruto, drawing one of his own kunai. Naruto swung his right hand. Kiba ducked that kunai and stabbed with his own. Naruto blocked it with the kunai in his left. They disengaged. "So, I see you picked up a little bit of ability," said Kiba. "You came a long way since the academy." Naruto couldn't help but smirk as he sheathed his kunai. This didn't go missed by Kiba. "You have no idea," said Naruto, "how right you are." Naruto started flashing through hand signs so quickly that Kiba could keep up. "Fire style. Phoenix flower jutsu," he yelled. "What?" exclaimed Kiba. The 15 small fire balls converged on him. Kiba barely escaped. Asuma looked at Kakashi in shock. "That move," he said, "that's a fire jutsu of the Uchiha clan." "So how is it Naruto knows it?" Kakashi gave him a one-eyed smile. "Oh, you'll see," he replied. Kiba came up charging and drew 2 smoke bottoms. "Let's go, Akamaru," he said, and threw the smoke bombs. No one could see a thing. Akamaru leapt into the smoke, using his nose to track Naruto. As the smoke started to clear, Kiba charged kunai in hand. "Naruto!" yelled Sakura and moved to jump down. "Stop, Sakura," said Kakashi. Sakura was stunned. Kakashi had never raised his voice to her like that. "Have faith in Naruto." Sakura climbed down off the railing. Just as the smoke completely cleared, Kiba was in Naruto's face and plunged the kunai in his stomach. "Naruto!" Sakura yelled again. A look of shock was on everyone's faces. Everyone in the building heard the distinct drip, 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 of water. A look of shock crossed Kiba's face as he watched water flow out of the wound in Naruto's stomach. Then the water clone collapsed. Kiba searched frantically for him. "Where is he?" he said aloud. His answer was a hard punch across the face. Kiba stumbled back. "When the hell did you learn to use water clones, and fire jutsu for that matter?" Naruto smirked. "I wouldn't worry about that right now if were you," said Naruto. "Fine," said Kiba, "but at least tell me how you use the water clone." "Fair enough," said Naruto. "Kiba, look around you, at all the water on the floor. It's left over from the time Sakura pummeled Ino with her water bullets. When you threw your smoke bombs, I simply used the water on the floor and created a water clone." Kiba growled, baring his fangs. Then he sprinted at Naruto. "Tunneling Fang," he shouted and began to rapidly spin. Naruto didn't have time to react. Kiba hit him right in the chest, tearing his shirt to shreds. After being bored into for 10 seconds, Naruto finally managed to push Kiba to the side a bit and slip away. As soon as he broke contact, he dropped to one knee clutching at his stomach. Kiba flipped out of his attack and stood tall, a triumphant look in his face. I gotta say, he said, I'm actually impressed you even still standing. Naruto glared at him, his cobalt eyes burning a hole in him. Kiba took a step back and slipped his hand into his pouch, drawing out 2 food pills. He tossed onto Akamaru, before popping one in his own mouth. Let's go, Akamaru. Man, beast clones. He shouted as Akamaru leapt on his back. In a flash there were 2 Kibas. They ran at Naruto on all fours. Fang over fang. They shouted. Naruto leapt out of the way. Kiba came to a stop. You know you're pretty pathetic, he said with all the honesty in the world. It takes you 3 tries to pass the academy graduation exam, which you only passed in the end on a technicality. Then you botch every D-ranked mission you go on, only succeeding at those missions because of Sasuke, and then. Kakashi turned to Kurenai. Kurenai, whatever happens to Kiba, you cannot hold it against Naruto, he said. Kiba is going to bring on himself. Kurenai looked at him surprised. Excuse me, she said. Naruto is about to kill Kiba, said Kakashi as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. I fail to see how that's going to happen, she replied. He can't barely stand. Naruto's emotions are buried, not gone, said Kakashi. Kiba is about to unleash something he'll never forget. Sakura was just as confused as Kurenai. She gazed at the 2 taking in. Realization dawned on her. Kiba, that idiot, she said, is he trying to get killed? You let Sasuke die, you did nothing to help him, as he defended you, finished Kiba. Naruto's face darkened. Take it back, said Naruto darkly. Kiba laughed. What's that? He said. Take back what you said, shouted Naruto. Tore the remains of his shirt off. His entire torso was covered in scared like he'd been stabbed by hundreds of thin weapons, needle scars. He vanished only to reappear right in front of Kiba and smashed him to the ground. He rained punch after punch into Kiba's face. The second Kiba ran at Naruto and knocked him off Kiba. Naruto skidded to a halt on one knee. Kiba dragged himself to his feet. Rage burning in his eyes. This is getting intense, said Shikamaru. Naruto is completely different from when we were in the academy. You said it, replied Ino, a bit nervous as to what was going to happen next. The 3 Junin sensei moved together, in case they had to intervene. Naruto glanced up at Kakashi, a question in his eye. Go ahead, Naruto, he replied. You're ready, show them your power. The 3rd Hokage had been watching all the fights with mild interest. This fight, however, he'd been paying the closest attention to. He'd promised Minato he'd watch over the boy. He wanted to see how far he'd come. He'd been pleasantly surprised at May point in the match, but in Kakashi's words, he sat up a bit straighter. In fact, everyone in the building seemed to being watching closing. Kakashi, what are you talking about? Asked Asuma. Just watch, said Kakashi. Keep your eyes on Naruto, he's about to surprise you. Naruto slowly untied his headband and laid it across his knee. Then with a glance at Kiba, his hands moved to the bandages on his face. Kiba wanted to attack, but his curiosity got the better of him. He didn't move. Sasuke, thought Naruto, lend me your strength, help me, in this desperate hour. The final bandage was removed. Naruto tossed it away and picked his headband back up and tied it around his forehead. Then he stood up straight, proud and tall, his earlier rage forgotten. After 10 months of closure, Naruto snapped his right eye open, unveiling Sharingan. The entire building let out a gasp. The Hokage leapt to his feet. Sharingan, but that's. If any of you ever wondered why I insisted on continuing Naruto's train myself, said Kakashi, now you know. Sharingan, exclaimed Kurenai, but how? When? In the land of the waves, said Kakashi. Sasuke didn't die protecting Naruto. He died as they fought side by side. During the fight, Naruto lost his right eye, pierced by Senbon as he defended Sasuke's body. After the fight was over, Sasuke gave Naruto Sharingan, as a gift of friendship and brotherhood. The village grieves over the lose of the Uchiha clan, while Naruto grieves the lose of Sasuke Uchiha, the closest thing he's ever had to a brother. The village slanders him for allowing the last of the Uchiha to die, while Naruto punishes himself for not being able to protect a comrade. In fact, I believe Shikamaru here is the only one who's ever taken the time to check on Naruto. Every single one of them looked ashamed of themselves. Kakashi turned his gaze to Sakura, who was beaming with pride for her sensei and for her teammate. No matter how hard he tried, Kiba couldn't tear his gaze away from Naruto's right eye. It entranced him, drew him in. He took a step towards him, then back. Then shook his head. Naruto copied it all perfectly. Kiba's cracked, said Kurenai. Naruto's got the match in the bag. Kiba's thoughts aren't even his own. He finally shook himself free of the red eye's piercing gaze and attacked using his Akamaru and his fang over fang. Naruto sidestepped it and brought his right leg up in a hard kick, catching the real Kiba in the chest. The jutsu broke almost instantly as Kiba crashed to the ground. Naruto calmly settled over Kiba and put a kunai to his throat. Akamaru had no choice but to back down. Hayate leapt to Kiba and Naruto, checking Kiba for vital signs. Because his opponent is unable to continue, the winner in Naruto Uzumaki, said Hayate. Haru, Sakura and Lee all burst into cheers. Naruto stood up. With a tired sigh, he pulled his headband down over his Sharingan. He turned and walked toward the stairs, tucking his hands in his pockets. He reached his team, where he received congratulations from all of the Leaf Genin. Leave it to you to have something like that under your belt, said Shikamaru. That was awesome, said Haru. Why didn't you tell me you had the Sharingan? I wasn't allowed to reveal it until now, replied Naruto. After the rest of the rookie nine left him, Sakura pulled Naruto into a hug. Great job, Naruto, she said. Naruto hesitated for a minute, then returned it, holding her tightly. Very good, Naruto, said Kakashi. Using the hypnotic eye to make Kiba think he wanted to use fang over fang, even tricked him into being on the left where he'd be open. Naruto smirked. Thanks, he said. Here, said Kakashi, pulling off his Junin vest and draping it over his shoulders. Wear this until we can get you a shirt. Thanks again, said Naruto, slipping his arms through it and zipping it up. The next two opponents were Hinata and Neji Hyuga. They stood across from each other. Hinata looked terrified, scared like she wanted to run. Then she took a quick glance at Naruto. Her resolve seemed to harden. They both took the same stance. Of course, said Lee, the Hyuga style, that is why their stances are the same. They are both from the Hyuga clan. The two charged each other, striking hard with chakra burst from each of the strikes. Naruto pulled the headband from his Sharingan. It's amazing, he said. They release sharp bursts of chakra, driving them into their opponent's body. Neji finally landed a blow on her throat, causing her to back up. Clutching at her chest, the resolve drained from her face for a split second before returning. She charged him again, taking a hard shot right to the heart. Damn it, said Naruto. She fought a good fight, but it's over. He pulled the headband over the Sharingan. Then a gasp escaped his lips. She was getting back up. No, 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 he said. Stay down, don't do anything crazy. She dragged herself to her feet. Neji let out a cry of rage and charged. In a flash, Naruto disappeared only to reappear right in front of Neji. The fight is over, Neji, he said. Neji scoffed and left the arena floor. Naruto turned and ran to Hinata. He was soon joined by Kurenai, who knelt down and yanked her jacket open. She's going into cardiac arrest, she said. Naruto leapt out of the way as the medical corps raced in. They had her up and gone in 15 seconds. Naruto returned to his team, where Sakura wrapped her arms around Naruto's right arm. Her previous inhibitions forgotten. The board on the wall scanned through names and came to a stop on Rock Lee and Choji. Lee jumped to the ground and waited for Choji to reach him. Once he did, Lee gave him a deep bow. It is an honor to face a fellow ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village, he said. That said, he took his headband off his waist and tied it around his forehead. You know, said Naruto, I'm liking this Lee guy more and more. Sakura smiled. It was so nice to see Naruto opening up. He was smiling a bit more, not big smile up smiles nonetheless. The fight between Lee and Choji was pretty lame really. Choji tried to use his human boulder jutsu, which Lee stopped with him with a hard kick. Choji deflated. He was tired and a little scared. He charged Lee. Lee kicked him once, sending him flying, and the match ended. Was all Naruto could say. Lee helped Choji up and carried him to the catwalk with the rest. My apologies, he said, I didn't mean to embarrass you. No, that's okay, said Choji, neither once of us held but and you were the victor. No need to apologize for that. Naruto couldn't help but smile. The last match was Dosu versus Gaara. Gaara stood across from Dosu with his arms crossed and the gourd on his back pouring sand. Sop, that's what's in that gourd, mumbled Naruto, it's sand. Dosu charged Naruto, pulling back his sleeve and revealing his weird glove. He punched at Gaara. The sand rose to Gaara's defense. Then it wrapped around Dosu's arm and covered his body. Sand coffin, said Gaara. Dosu struggled, trying to get free. Gaara raised his open hand, pointing the palm at Dosu. Sand burial. The sand crushed Dosu. Sakura turned away, hiding her face in Naruto's chest. The sand retreated back into the gourd. There was no sign of Dosu at all. Gaara left the battlefield. Alright, and with that the third test preliminaries are complete, said Hayate. Can I get all the victors in a single file line in front of me? After they did as they were asked, the Hokage addressed them. First off, congratulations for passing the first round, he said. The finals will be held in 1 month, so use that time to train and learn new techniques. I wish you all the best of luck. You are dismissed. Naruto turned to his team. We have 1 month, he said. You'll all be ready, said Kakashi, but it'll be a long road. Naruto's eyes slowly opened as he awoke. He rolled over and looked at the clock. It was 7 in the morning. He sat up and rubbed his eyes and stretched. Then he climbed out of bed and headed for the bathroom. Turning on the water, he climbed into the shower and let the hot liquid pour over his body, relaxing his sore muscles. He hadn't really enjoyed his shower the night before. He'd be too tired to do anything but get in, get clean, and get out. Now he let it loosen the tension in his body and soothe his aching muscles. As he stood under the shower, the battle with Kiba played over and over in his head. Why had it been so tough? Sure, Kiba was good, but Naruto knew he wasn't on Naruto's level. Hell, there were only a few at the prelims that were. Neji, that boy Gaara, and maybe Lee. So why had he had so much trouble? He even had to resort to Sharingan, which he'd hoped to save for the finals. Unable to find an answer to his question, he punched the tiled wall of his shower with a low curse. Deciding his shower was no longer relaxing, Naruto climbed out and toweled himself dry. Then he wrapped the towel low around his waist and exited the bathroom. He went down the hall and into his kitchen looking for something to eat. He opened his fridge and decided that eating was out of the question. He needed to go to the store. There was a knock on his front door. He walked over and opened it, closing his right eye. It was Sakura. Oh, hey Sakura, he said, completely forgetting about his almost total. She, however, noticed it almost immediately. Naruto, she said, shouldn't you put some clothes on? Confusion crossed Naruto's face as he looked down. Seeing his scantily clad body, Naruto blushed slightly. Sorry. Come in, he said, stepping aside to allow her entrance. I'll be right back. He left the room and went to his own, where he quickly dressed in his blood-red tee and black pants. He tied his headband around his right eye and left the room. He walked back out in the living room to find Sakura sitting on his couch, patently waiting for him. It was then Naruto noticed the change. You got your hair cut, he said softly, sitting down next to her. She nodded. She said, you like it? She asked. Naruto could tell from the look on her face she wanted him to approve. Yeah, I do, he said honestly, it looks really nice. She smiled and put her head on his shoulder. You going to see him soon? She asked. He nodded. Deciding to push her luck a little, Sakura asked something she'd never asked before, can I come? Naruto was quiet for a long time, so long in fact Sakura was about to withdraw her request when he spoke up. Yeah, I'd like that, and I think he would too, said Naruto. Sakura smiled. They soon got up and left, knowing the sooner Naruto visited him, the sooner Sakura could get him out and about. Sakura wrapped her arms around Naruto's and laid her head on his shoulder. They walked through the village, keeping to themselves, not paying any attention to the looks of interest they were getting. They weren't dating, they were sleeping with each other, they were simply best friends, and this was comfortable to them. Their journey took about half an hour, but when they arrived they stood at Sasuke's grave for quite a while. Finally Sakura sank to her knees and whispered to herself. Sasuke, thank you for all you did for me and Naruto, she said. I'm sorry I haven't visited sooner, but Naruto needed time alone with you, time to heal. He's getting there, Sasuke, as I'm sure you've seen. Please help him heal, help him let go the burden of guilt he's placed on his own shoulders. I know you bear him no animosity, I'm not sure how I do, but I do. He refuses to forgive himself, help him. Her prayer to Sasuke finished, she stood and returned to Naruto's side. Naruto was silent, reading the words on Sasuke's grave like he had a million times before. The battle on the bridge played in his mind. What could he have done different? He could have stopped the Senbon, he could have stopped Haku quicker, if only he had trained harder, focused more on getting stronger and less on ramen, Sasuke would still be here. Sakura watched as Naruto's face grew more and more pained. She knew what he was doing, blaming himself again, coming up with all the things he could have done. She'd been around him enough to know when he was sinking into depression. Deciding to take another risk, she slipped her hand in his and laced their fingers together. She gave his hand a slight squeeze. He snapped out of his thoughts and looked at her startled. She gave him a soft smile and started to pull him away. Naruto cast one last glance back at the headstone and followed her. He half expected her to release his hand once she got him away for the grave, but she didn't. She held it firmly, guiding them both back to the village square. Once there they wandered around the market looking at all the new items the vendors had. Naruto was standing back a bit watching Sakura look at jewelry when an old man approached him. Anything I can help you with, son? The man asked. Naruto looked at the man, his smile seemed real enough, which was weird. Naruto never got looks like that. You don't know who I am, do you? He asked. Oh, I know perfectly well who you are, said the man. And you still talk to me? Asked Naruto, a bit stunned. Of course, said the man like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Why? Asked Naruto, even more stunned. Young man, said the old man, I see you around the village quite a bit. Always sulking, always down. You don't fight the insults, you just take it, never once fighting back. Naruto, to me that says you didn't let the Uchiha die, that you fought with him, and that Sharingan in your right eye tells me that he meant more to you and you to him than anybody else in this whole world. But you still fight, bearing the weight of Uchiha's death on your shoulders, unable to let him go. Son, until you do, you will never be able to harness your true strength. Realization washed over Naruto like a wave breaking on the shore. Until he let go of Sasuke, he'd be unable to fight to his full potential. That was why he'd had so much trouble with Kiba. He'd been unable to fight with a clear head. A part of him still focused on Sasuke's death. He was distracted. What happens if that happens on a mission, son? The old man asked. Your friends and comrades would be put in danger. Naruto was ashamed. He'd once told Haru to never hesitate. All the while being a hypocrite. He glanced over at Sakura, picturing her dead because he'd hesitated. The thought scared him. He felt as much pain thinking about Sakura dying as he had when Sasuke actually had. He looked away and clamped his eyes shut. It was all he could do to stem the flow of tears that he felt threatening to fall. After a minute he got himself under control and looked back at the man. The man was still smiling that kinda smile. Something about that smile told Naruto he knew exactly what Naruto was going through. Naruto glanced back over at Sakura. She was chatting happily with the shop owner. She looked over and saw he looking over at her. Her grin grew even wider. She excitedly waved him over. A small smile playing on his lips, he politely excused himself and walked over to Sakura. "Look," she said. She was holding a picture in her hands. Naruto's face lit on with recognition. It was him and Sasuke as young children. He remembered the day. Sasuke has made a jab at him after class one day and Naruto had gone to confront him about it. They ended up just standing side by side on the dock watching the sunset. Someone must have stumbled upon them and took the picture. Naruto's smile got a little larger as he took it out of her hands. "Would you like me to be it for you?" he asked. Confusion played across Sakura's face. "I thought you might like to have it," she said. Naruto shook his head. It was time for him to start trying to let go of Sasuke. "I have all I need," he said, pointing to the headband on his face. "Here." He handed it back to her and turned to the man running the stall. He handed him the labeled price and thanked him. Then Naruto motioned for Sakura to follow him. She did so and soon had her hand intertwined in his. He looked down at her. She was looking fondly at the picture. One who didn't know what had gone on 2 minutes beforehand would have thought they were the best of friends. Sakura must have felt him staring because she looked up at him, a smile on her face. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. Naruto looked at her, a question in his eyes. "You're trying, aren't you? You're trying to move on." Naruto nodded. "I am," he said. Sakura gave his hand a squeeze and together they walked down the street to meet Kakashi and Haru for training. When they reached training field 7 they weren't surprised to find that Haru was the only one waiting for them, despite their being half an hour late. Haru waved at them from where he was sitting against a tree sharpening the blades of the demon wind. Naruto and Sakura slowly made their way over to him. When they reached him he smiled up at them and slipped his shuriken into its sheath on his back. Naruto helped him to his feet and turned to find Kakashi strolling into the field. "Yo," he said. Once he reached them he gave the instructions for the training. "Taijutsu only. Oh, and if you don't mind I thought I'd join you." The 3 genin looked at each other before shrugging and nodding as one. "All right then, scatter," said Kakashi and the 4 broke off. Haru and Sakura met each other in the middle of the field, each wielding kunai. Sakura blocked an overhead slash and countered with a hard kick to Haru's middle. Haru brought his other arm across his stomach and blocked the kick, stumbling a bit. But Sakura was unable to capitalize on the opening because Naruto flew straight over Haru's head and launched a flurry of 3 kicks, the last one being an axe kick that drove Sakura to the ground hard. Naruto landed in a crouch and leapt straight into the air to avoid a kick from Haru. He flipped backwards, drawing his 2 kunai and landed in a low crouch with both his arms held straight out to his side, the kunai held in reverse grips. Haru pulled the demon wind off his back and flipped it open. He threw it straight Naruto, who vanished from sight and reappeared right in front of Haru. He put a foot on Haru's knee and brought his other leg up in a knee strike. Haru fell backwards right past Sakura, who was now up and charging, her kunai in hand. Naruto, unable to defend himself in mid-air, took a hard kick to the solar plexus. He hit the ground hard, gasping for breath. Sakura stood over him triumphantly. She brought her leg down in an axe kick, which Naruto avoided by rolling to his left and flipping to his feet. He stared at his 2 opponents, Sakura to his left, Haru to his right. They were locked in a standstill. It then that Kakashi chose to appear. Right in the middle. Naruto didn't even hesitate. He charged Kakashi, sheathing his kunai. Kakashi blocked his first punch and countered with a hard kick. Naruto ducked the kick and delivered an elbow into Kakashi's stomach. Kakashi took the hit but didn't move. Naruto flipped away. Kakashi and Naruto stared each other down. Sakura and Haru were motionless. neither wanting to get caught in this fight. Faster than anyone could see, Naruto and Kakashi both pulled their hand bands from their faces, unveiling their Sharingans. They charged. The force of their blows created gusts of wind. It ended in a flash. Naruto, starting to get desperate, overextended. Kakashi caught his forearm and brought the boy crashing to the ground. All right, he said, that's it for today. It was getting late and he needed to let them get going. Naruto stood up after Kakashi got off of him and pulled his headband down over his face. Sakura walked over to the tree and picked up her picture. Then the three genin left the forest. They decided to eat dinner at Ikirachu's. Once they were sat at the bar and their ramen ordered, Sakura and Haru chatted while Naruto listened. They talked about the training they'd just had and, more importantly, Kakashi and Naruto's fight. What possessed you to charge Kakashi-sensei like that, Naruto? Asked Haru. Naruto gave a short shrug. I wanted to test myself, he said. Well, you got your butt kicked, said Haru. Naruto shrugged again and turned to the ramen Ayame had just set down in front of him. After eating for a few minutes, Naruto turned to look at his friends. They were chatting happily, smiling and laughing at the things they were discussing. Sakura had scooted his stool closer to Naruto and was slightly leaning on him. After their ramen, the three friends stood and began to head home. Naruto was in the middle, Sakura to his right, her left hand laced in his right and her right arm holding onto his bicep. Haru was to his left, both hands behind his head. They decided to spend some time as a team at Naruto's house. They wanted to spend time together, just the three of them, to breath before really jumping into the hard training for the Chunin finals. They went up the stairs to his apartment and stepped into his small living room. After few hours they all decided to crash in Naruto's living room. Kakashi Hatake sat at the village dango shop with his favorite type of dumpling in front of him. Long time no see, Kakashi, came a voice from behind him. He turned to see an elderly man with hair white as the snow in a red gi. Master Jeriah, he said, completely stunned. What are you doing here? You haven't been in the village in years. The man sighed and stepped around table. Honestly, I hadn't planned to come back this soon, but it's been taken out of my hands, Jeriah said. You see, I've been keeping tabs on that pain in the neck Orochimaru ever since he left the village all those years ago. And now I know he's coming back to the village, if he's not here already. Kakashi let out a gasp. Are you serious, Master Jeriah? He asked. I'm afraid that I am, he said, crossing his arms. So that's what brings you back? Asked Kakashi. Yes and no, said Jeriah. I once made a promise to Minato and Kushina that I would watch over Naruto if anything happened to them. It's time I made good on my promise. Kakashi looked at him dumbfounded. But, he stuttered. Kakashi, it's not my desire to steal your student, said Jeriah, just help with a technique here or there. I know there are many techniques you can still teach him. It's more than that, said Kakashi. I don't know if you're aware of it, but Naruto has recently received a Sharingan eye and 2 affinities. As near as I can tell, Naruto has 3 chakra affinities. 3. Asked Jeriah. No, Kakashi, that's not possible. I didn't think it was either, but Master Jeriah, he does, I swear to you, said Kakashi. 3. You're sure? Asked Jeriah. Yes, near as I can tell, wind, lightning, and fire, said Kakashi, which brings me to my next point. I want to teach him Chidori, but his chakra control is quite there yet. Jeriah was silent for a while. I may have the perfect solution, said Jeriah. The summoning jutsu will be the perfect way for him to focus his chakra. Perfect, said Kakashi. I'll let you take over with the training for the summoning jutsu, then I can teach him Chidori, and after that, well, we'll see where it goes from there. Wait. Jeriah suddenly burst out. Did you say Naruto has Sharingan? Yes, said Kakashi, running his hand over his forehead. 9 months ago, my team and I were on a mission in the land of waves. It went wrong. It went so wrong, Jeriah. We were attacked by a rouge ninja named Zabuza, him and his apprentice. Sasuke and Naruto engaged the apprentice in mortal combat. Sasuke was killed. With his last breath, he gave Naruto his Sharingan to replace the eye Naruto lost in the battle. Ever since then he's trained to use it. That's quite a story, said Jeriah. It's all true, said Kakashi. No, I know, said Jeriah. Kakashi, Naruto has a long road ahead of him. Naruto is going to have to learn that because of who he is, he's going to have to spend his entire watching his back. Kakashi ran a hand through his silver hair and let out a heavy sigh. I know, he said, we'll just focus on his training for now. Good idea, said Jiraiya, we'll focus on the summoning jutsu for now and then we'll have to see what happens. Naruto woke up with a stiff neck. Sat up straight on his couch and stretched trying to loosen his neck. He had spent the night on his couch and was now regretting it. He rubbed out his neck and walked toward the kitchen being careful to step over Haru on the way there. After fishing a glass out of his cupboard he filled it with water from his tap and downed it in 3 gulps. It did little for his neck so he filled another glass and drank half of it. He walked out of the kitchen with the glass in hand just in time to find Haru stirring from his spot on the floor. "Aw man," moaned Haru, "what time is it?" Naruto took a swig of water and looked at the clock. "Just about noon," he said. "Shit," said Haru, "what time did we go to bed last night?" "I don't know," said Naruto, "like 4 maybe." He took another swig of water, and walked down the hall towards his bedroom. He inched the door open and peered in. What he found left him completely speechless. Sakura lay in his bed, she was on her back, her pink hair splayed out around her. Naruto leaned on the door frame watching the gentle rise and fall of her chest as she slumbered. He took another sip of water debating with himself whether or not to wake her. They had to meet Kakashi for training in 2 hours and Naruto knew she would want to go home first. "Hey," whispered Haru from behind him, "I am gonna head home, I'll see you for training." Naruto nodded and turned back to his sleeping teammate. Steeling himself, he approached her bedside and gently sat down. He lightly shook her shoulder. "Sakura, it's time to wake up," he said. His soft emerald eyes fluttered open. "Nah, Naruto?" she asked, slightly confused. "Yes," he said, "it's about time to get up, it's already noon." "Oh, okay," she said. "I'll leave you to get dressed," he said, standing up and leaving the room, grabbing a change of cloths on his way out. He changed in the bathroom. He put on a pair of black pants and a midnight blue tee. He exited the bathroom just as Sakura was leaving his room. She gave him a soft smile. "Sleep well?" he asked her. She nodded. "You have a comfortable bed," she replied. He smiled. "I'm glad," he said. "We should swing by your place before going on to training." She nodded and together they left the apartment. They quickly made their way across the village, Sakura holding his right hand in her left, her right hand on his bicep. In time they made it to Sakura's house. "You want to come in?" she asked. He nodded and followed her inside. "Oh, Naruto," said Aki as he stepped in. "We haven't seen you around here for quite a while." "Yeah, sorry about that," he said, "I've been kinda busy." "Oh, that's okay," replied Aki. "Oh, I see you took your bandages off, but you still wear your headband over your eye, are you still injured?" "No, you see I actually have Sasuke's Sharingan eye in my right eye," he said. "I keep it covered because I can't deactivate it." "Ah, I see," said Aki a bit confused. "Well, come and have some tea." "We can't, Mom," said Sakura. "We have to meet Kakashi-sensei for training." "Oh, okay, fine," said Aki. "Just come back after. It's been too long since we saw Naruto." "Sure, Mom, I will," said Sakura, and with that the 2 young ninja left the Haruno home. They were met with a very unfamiliar sight upon entering their usual training field. Not only was Haru there waiting for them, but Kakashi, and with him was an old white-haired man. "Naruto," said Kakashi as they approached, "you won't be training with the rest of the team, for now you're to go with Master Jiraiya. He's got a couple jutsu he wants to teach you." Okay," said Naruto, raising an eyebrow and looking at the old man. The man in question gave him a goofy smile. Alright, said Jiraiya as he and Naruto stood next to the river. First I'll show you the jutsu I want you to learn. He quickly flashed through 5 signs before slamming his hand on the ground. Summoning jutsu, he shouted. There was a cloud of smoke, and as it cleared, Naruto saw the old man standing on a red toad with a green and red skull. Take the scroll. Naruto did as he was instructed and unrolled it on the ground. That scroll is a contract with the summoning toads, explained Jiraiya, passed down from earlier generations of ninja. Sign your name in your own blood and stamp the fingerprints of one hand on under it. Then build up your chakra and slam it on the ground where you want to perform the summoning. The signs are boar, dog, bird, monkey, sheep. Naruto let out a heavy sigh as he drew one of his kunai off his hip and sliced open his right thumb. He quickly wrote his name and stamped his right fingerprints on the scroll beneath his name. Good, now do it, said Jiraiya in a stern voice. Stealing his resolve, Naruto quickly flashed through the 5 signs and slammed his palm on the ground. Ninja art. Summoning jutsu. He yelled. He disappeared in a cloud of smoke, only to reappear standing on a blue toad with yellow stripes running down his back. Amazing, thought Jiraiya, to summon a toad that size on his first try. No one's done that since Minato. This boy, with Sharingan and the right determination, he could easily surpass his father. What the hell? Exclaimed the toad. What are you doing over there, Jiraiya-sama? Jiraiya smirked from where he was on the red toad's back. It wasn't me who summoned you, said the sage. Really? Then who? Asked the toad. He's on your back, said Jiraiya. Jump down, Naruto, let him see you. Naruto let out a sigh and jumped off the toad's back. Who are you? Asked the toad in genuine curiosity. Naruto, replied the young man. Well, nice to meet you, Naruto, said the toad. My name is Gamamochi. Nice to make your acquaintance, said Naruto. Jiraiya wore a small frown. He'd hoped the first meeting between Naruto and his new friend would go smoother, but this boy was more withdrawn than he'd thought. Gamamochi's face a bit and he disappeared in a poof. Naruto, scolded Jiraiya, Gamamochi is a very shy spirit. When you act like that, it hurts his feeling, runs him down. That's something you should probably work on. Yeah, maybe, said Naruto, partially ashamed of himself. He seemed to have a knack for upsetting people these days. He slouched his shoulders, tucked his hands in his pockets and started walking back to Kakashi. Naruto, came Jiraiya's stern voice, do not walk away. Do the jutsu again. Naruto took his hands out of his pockets. He bit his thumb and flashed through the 5 signs again. Summoning jutsu. Once again a plum of smoke. Naruto appeared standing on Gamamochi's back. So summoned me back already? He said. Yeah, said Naruto jumping off his back. Look, Gamamochi, I wanted to apologize. I didn't mean to be rude or hurtful. It is nice to meet you. Gamamochi's face lit up. A smile played on Jiraiya's face and he nodded his head. You too, Naruto-san, said Gamamochi. Gamamochi, said Jiraiya, Naruto may be summoning you often on the next few days, just to get some practice, please bear with us. Not a problem, Jiraiya-sama, said Gamamochi. But we're done with this for the day, said Jiraiya. Okay, see you around, Naruto-san, he said. See you later, Gamamochi, replied Naruto. With that the toad poofed away. Okay, said Jiraiya, now that we have that down, we need to move on. Naruto, I doubt you're even aware of it, but your body houses 2 chakras. 2 chakras? Asked Naruto, a bit dumbfounded. Exactly, 2, said Jiraiya. One is the one your body naturally produces and the other comes from something else. The 9 tails, said Naruto, getting a faraway look. Yes, said Jiraiya, the 9-tailed fox. And with training you can learn to control it. Naruto didn't seem to like the idea of controlling the 9 tails chakra. Don't worry, I'll be here to help you along. The only time I used the 9 tails chakra, I lost my eye, said Naruto. I lose control of my body, I don't like it. With the training we're going to be doing, you'll be funneling it into jutsu, said Jiraiya, making the jutsu you use now even more powerful. Naruto still seemed a bit uneasy but nodded. Good. First we need to expend body's own chakra, said Jiraiya. Naruto nodded. Setting his mouth in a hard line, he built up chakra in his chest just like he had countless time before. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. He put his fingers to the outer edge of his mouth and exhaled. The fireball was massive, the biggest one he'd ever made. He poured more and more chakra into it, draining himself fast. In 2 minutes almost all his chakra was gone. Excellent, said Jiraiya, now try building up more chakra. Naruto did as he was instructed. No good, he said, it's just the usual chakra. Jiraiya stroked his chin for a minute trying to think of a solution. We'll just have to keep working on it, said Jiraiya, but for now it's getting late, we should call it a day. Naruto nodded and headed back to his team. Hey, Naruto, said Haru as Naruto approached them. Naruto waved in greeting. Sakura started to jog towards him. How'd it go? She asked. Learn anything? Yeah, said Naruto, a summoning jutsu, made a new friend. Oh, asked Sakura. Yeah, I'll show you later, said Naruto, and with that the team and their sensei left the training field. Over the next few days Naruto worked on his summoning jutsu and controlling the Nine Tails chakra. He made very little progress. Jiraiya helped as much as he could, but he knew for Naruto to do this he needed to do it on his own. Damn it, said Naruto as he dropped to one knee after another failed attempt to build up any of the fox's chakra. I'm not getting anywhere with this, he said, throwing a stone into the river. Naruto, said Jiraiya, you've come as far as you can with this, it's time to move on. What do you mean? Asked Naruto. You see, Naruto, said Kakashi from where he was sitting next to Jiraiya. Each thing Master Jeriah and I have trained you has been to learn something else, he said. With the tree climbing and water walking exercises you learn to control your chakra and release it in a steady amount. Sharingan helped you limit the amount you used but still put it to effect, therefore not wasting any. With the summoning jutsu you learn to control greater amounts of chakra. Now we're moving on. Moving on? Asked Naruto, but I haven't even mastered the summoning jutsu. Gamamochi only come out once every 3 tries. Every time else it's that annoying Gamakichi. You've got it down enough to move ahead, said Jiraiya, but I fully expect you to keep working on the summoning jutsu. Fine, it's settled, I'll work on the summoning jutsu Jiraiya-sensei taught me and learn this new technique. Alright, said Kakashi, this new technique, you'll be learning from me. We have 2 weeks. Say goodbye to the others, you won't be seeing them for a while. What? Said Sakura. What do you mean, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto needs to focus on his training, said Kakashi, he needs to be away from her. He and I are going into the mountains. We'll be back in time for the finals. Sakura hugged Naruto, letting out a small whimper. Do your best, okay? She whispered, I'll be waiting for you, come back stronger, okay? Naruto gave her a small smile. It's a promise, he said. Sakura stood in line next to Haru looking around for any signs of Naruto. He and Kakashi had left 2 weeks ago. Kakashi said they'd be back in time for the finals, but it was starting in 20 minutes. She looked worriedly at Haru, who looked back with any equally worried look. What do you think? Asked Haru. You think they'll get back in time? I don't know, said Sakura. Kakashi said they'd be back, but there's no sign of them. She was about to say something else when the crowd around them exploded in cheers. She glanced around and finally looked at the entrance. Walking into the gates was Kakashi and Naruto. Naruto had changed, his hair was even longer and even more shaggy. It reminded her of something, of someone. She slowly recalled a picture she'd once seen. A young man in his early 20s, with long shaggy blonde hair wearing a white coat. Naruto looked exactly like the 4th Hokage. In addition to his hair, Naruto's clothes had changed. He was now wearing white pants and sky blue shirt, his black thong-style sandals were the same and the blue handband on his face was the same too. Hey Naruto, said Sakura as he walked up next to them. Hey guys, he replied, giving them a small smile. Sorry I'm late. That's alright, you had us worried though, said Haru. Kakashi walked up to his students. Hey guys, sorry I didn't stick around for your training, he said. That's alright, said Haru. I found a master in Earth-style ninjutsu. I've picked up quite a few new tricks. Just watch me, Kakashi-sensei. I'll show you how much I've learned. Good, said Kakashi. I know you'll all make me proud. Naruto wore a smug smirk as he watched his teacher walk away. All right, listen up, said the proctor. It wasn't the same proctor they'd had last time. Here, he held up a bracket board. Study it quickly. Haru was fighting Neji, Shikamaru was next fighting Tamari, then it was Naruto against the monster Gaara. Sakura was after that fighting Lee, and the last fight was Kankuro versus Shino. Oh no, Naruto, said Sakura. I'll be fine, he said. I was hoping for this. Besides, we all have new tricks we want to show Kakashi. Haru, I know you'll do your best. Haru steeled his face. Right, he said. While Haru and his opponent remained in the grounds, Naruto, Sakura and the rest of the finalists went into the stands to watch the fight. Naruto and Sakura sat with the rest of the 9 rookies. Sakura leaning against him and his arm around her. Naruto hadn't realized how much he'd misses her until the moment he laid his eyes on her walking into the arena. Haru stood across the arena glaring at Neji. This boy had tried to kill a comrade. Haru wasn't going to stand for that. Begin, said the proctor. Haru pulled the demon wind off his back and flipped it open. The two ninja charged each other. Naruto pulled his hand band from his Sharingan. He watched as each of Neji's chakra-enhanced blows barely missed Haru or were blocked by the large shuriken in his hand. Haru flipped backwards as a strike passed over him by inches. He's okay, said Naruto. Neji hasn't hit him yet. Sakura let out a sigh of relief as the two fought up and down the arena. He's gotten a lot better, pointed out Sakura. He has, said Naruto, but all he can do right now is dodge. With Neji's ability to drive chakra into his body, if Haru take one direct hit, he's finished. Haru spun under a open palm strike for Neji and passed the shuriken in his hand across Neji's leg. Neji stumbled, but, I'm impressed, he said, it's been a long time since I was cut. Haru said nothing as he drew back his arm and hurled the shuriken and flashed through hand signs. Neji dodged the shuriken easily and came up changing. Earth style. Stone shuriken. Yelled Haru. Thousands of square floating rocks rose into the air surrounding Neji. It's over, said Naruto. The first shuriken hit Neji, and stopped dead. What? Exclaimed Naruto. Neji began to spin at a high speed surrounding himself in a dome of chakra. What was that? He asked. Rotation, said Tenten to his left. Normally ninja can send bursts of chakra from certain point in their body. Their hands, feet mostly. Neji, however, can expel chakra from all over his body. Then he spins at a high speed, making any attack launched against him rendered completely useless. Haru's going to have a tough time getting through that, said Sakura. Remember what Kakashi-sensei says, said Naruto, even though we're not on the battlefield with him, our teamwork will make him stronger. Have faith in each other and we will grow stronger as a team and as individuals. Behind Naruto, Kakashi wore a proud smile. There was hope for Naruto yet. Haru's breath was heavy, he'd poured a lot of chakra into that jutsu. It was his second best technique, he was sure he had Neji. Neji's smirk widened. Did you seriously think it would be that easy? He taunted. Haru snatched the demon wind out of the air as it returned, collapsed it and sheathed it. He glared into Neji's eyes, the veins surrounding them engorged due to the massive amounts of chakra being pumped through them. Face it, said Neji, your fate has already been decided, it was your destiny to lose today, it was decided the very moment I became your opponent. I for one believe we make our own destiny, said Haru. Just accept it, said Neji, you're a failure. You always have been, and you always will be. You're wrong, said Haru. Enough, said Neji, This ends now. Neji raced at Haru, a buried and open palmed strike right into the middle of Haru's chest. Haru hit the ground hard. He lay there for a minute before climbing back to his feet. Still think you can change your destiny? Said Neji. Fine, I'll show you exactly what happens to those who go against fate. Neji crouched in a low stance. Gentle fist art. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. He charged Haru and stuck him with 2 sharp strikes with his index and middle fingers. 2 palms. He hit his with 2 more, 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. 64 palms. Each strike hit Haru directly. Haru stumbled back, clutching his chest. I have struck every single one of your Charka points, said Neji. This match is over. This time it was Haru's turn to smirk. He started flashing through hand signs. It's useless, yelled Neji as he charged. Earth style. 6 stone pillars, shouted Haru. 6 pillars of earth rose from the ground surrounding Neji tightly. He could barely move, then walls of stone extended out of them, attaching to the pillar next to it. Neji looked up to see Haru standing on one of the pillars, his arms crossed over his chest. But how? He asked. I blocked off your chakra. Earth began to fall from Haru's body. He encased himself in a layer of earth, said Sakura, amazed. You see, said Haru, you were so caught up in your preachings of destiny and focusing on my chakra points, you failed to notice that the last time I hit the ground I covered myself in a thin shell of earth. I knew it couldn't be too thick or those eye of yours would see it. But it was thick enough to guard against your attack. I know all about the Hyuga and their ability to stop the flow of chakra. This is my best technique. Stone spikes from each pillar and wall. I can put a ceiling on this thing too. You so much as move a muscle, these spikes will impale you from 12 different angels. Admit it, you've lost. Neji searched his surroundings looking for any possible means of escape. He quickly found that there was no means, and Haru was right. He'd lost. I yield, he said in a downcast voice. The winner is Haru Murray, said the proctor. The crowd erupted. Naruto and Sakura clapped as well. The pillars and walls sank into the ground, leaving Haru standing in front of Neji. Neji looked tired and ashamed. I guess it wasn't your destiny to lose here, said Neji, but mine. Haru clapped him on the shoulder. Neji said, causing the older to look at him. 4 months ago I never would have had even a prayer of beating you. I was weak and had no confidence in myself. But I learned, we can do anything we set our mind to, if we just believe. Naruto taught me that. Hey, and you should have an easier time of it than me. He let go and began to walk away as Neji stared confusedly at his back. After all, unlike me, he said and looked over his shoulder, you're not a failure. With that, Haru left the arena to join his team. Good job, said Sakura, pulling Haru into a hug. Yes, well done, said Naruto, clapping him on the shoulder. Haru wore a goofy grin. That jutsu was mighty impressive, said Kakashi from behind him. I'm extremely proud of you, Haru. The next match is Shikamaru, Nara and Tamari. Yelled the proctor. Will the combatants please come down? There was a whirl of wind. Tamari came down from somewhere riding her fan. Moments later, Shikamaru walked into the arena, his hand tucked lazily into his pockets. The two opponents faced each other. Begin, said Genma. Tamari was up to the races, charging right at Shikamaru. She leapt into the air and brought fan down towards Shikamaru's head. When the dust cleared, Shikamaru was nowhere to be seen. Is he hiding? Asked Haru to no one in particular. I dunno, said Sakura, looking around the arena. A dark thing went skirting across the ground. A shadow. Tamari rapidly retreated. Just as it was about to reach her, it stopped. Looks like that's the extent of his range, said Naruto. Tamari smirked at him and drew a line in the dirt with her fan. She looked at him. It was then she noticed there was something different about him. His jacket was missing. She saw some things starting to form on the ground, another shadow. She looked into the air. He'd made a parachute out of his jacket, headband and a kunai. She ran to her left, past the proctor. His shadow stopped and began to retreat. Just as she turned to face him, she froze. He got her, said Naruto. Tamari looked around trying to figure out where she went wrong. She saw her mistake. He'd extended his shadow with the jacket and followed her as she fled past the proctor. He then used the proctor's shadow as a stepping stone, and caught her. Shikamaru walked them to the center of the arena. He rose his hand. To hell with it, he said, I give up. All Naruto's entire team could do was blink in disbelief. What just happened? Asked Haru. I'm not sure, replied Naruto. The crowd began booing. The winner is Tamari. The boos intensified, getting louder and louder. Shikamaru walked out of the arena and into the stands. Well then, said Gemna, let's begin the next match, Naruto Uzumaki and Gaara of the Sand. Naruto stood from his place in the stands and began to head for the arena. He stopped when something hit him in the back. It was Sakura, hugging him from behind. Be careful, she whispered, please be careful and come back to me safe. I will, said Naruto. Promise? She asked. Promise, confirmed Naruto, and reluctantly she let him go. Naruto left the stands and walked into the arena. Gaara was already waiting for him. I have to say, I've been looking forward to this, said Naruto. I feel the same, said Gaara. When you're ready, begin, said Genma. Sand began to pour from the gourd, driving its way into the ground. I see, thought Naruto, he's using the sand to create more sand for the earth itself. Naruto pulled his headband from his eye, the Sharingan locked in on Gaara, watching his every move. Soon Gaara was surrounded by a cloud of the sand from the earth. His own chakra-infused sand slipped back into the gourd. Perfect, Naruto flashed through a familiar set of hand signs. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. The jet of fire erupted from his mouth, engulfing the sand. As it died down, the crystallized sand crashed to the ground. Ah, ingenious, said Lee in Naruto's abandoned spot. He turned the sand to glass with fire. Naruto raced at Gaara. The sand poured from the gourd and attacked Naruto. Naruto dodged through the clouds of shifting sand and delivered a hard right side kick to Gaara's chest. The boy stumbled. It should have knocked him off his feet, but he seemed weighed down by something. Naruto flipped backwards and did a series of backhand springs to avoid the sand that was bearing down on him. He came a sliding stop and flashed through more hand signs. Fire style. Phoenix flower jutsu. The 20 fiery missiles raced at Gaara and crashed into his sand defenses. This sand, however, did not turn to glass. As I thought, that sand has so much of his chakra infused in it, that it can't be turned to glass. He stood and ran at Gaara, hurling 8 shuriken at him before vanishing from view. He reappeared behind Gaara. The sand took can of the shuriken. Gaara turned to face Naruto. Naruto delivered 8 punches in quick succession, each strike driving Gaara a bit further in the air. He ended the melee with a hard leaping spin kick that should have knocked him unconscious. Gaara hit the ground and was left back to his feet by his sand. When he looked back at Naruto, bit off his face seemed to be falling away. It was sand. I understand now. Naruto looked down at both his fists. His knuckles were bleeding. He encases himself in sand, like Haru did with the earth. That's why he seems so heavy. He got sand armor. Gaara went of the offensive. Clouds of sand streaked towards Naruto. Thanks to the Sharingan, Naruto was able to read and anticipate each attack. However, he was so busy dodging he couldn't attack. He crossed his fingers. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Another Naruto popped into existence and continued to dodge while the real Naruto vanished from sight. The sand finally pierced Naruto, and the clone disappeared. Gaara let out a gasp of surprise. However, it was cut short when a hard kick collided with the side of his head. Gaara was knocked to the ground again. This time when the sand rose him in the air, it began to encase him. Soon the sand formed a cocoon around him. Naruto looked in the cocoon for a minute. Then he charged. Spears of sand came from the cocoon, stopping Naruto short. He leapt away as they crashed into the ground. He landed on the spears and began to run up them. He drew his two kunai and stabbed the cocoon. It was hard as rock. Only one way around this, he thought, and leapt off the cocoon as more spears came from directly underneath him. He raced away from the cocoon and sprinted up the wall. Near the top he skidded to a halt. 3 hand signs: ox, rabbit, monkey. Haru looked back at his sensei. Kakashi-sensei, he said, what is Naruto doing? Kakashi gave him his one-eyed smile. Just watch, said Kakashi, but don't blink. Flashback. Okay, Naruto, this technique I'm going to teach you will be your most powerful attack, for now anyway, explained Kakashi. As we're covered so far, you learned to channel chakra, use mass amounts of chakra, not waste extra chakra, plus we've built up your speed to an almost inhuman level. This technique requires all that, plus something else. Something else? Asked Naruto. Correct. Focus, said Kakashi, the ability to focus all the chakra of the attack into a single point of impact. Watch. Kakashi blazed through the ox, rabbit, monkey signs and ended up holding his right wrist palm up. For a second nothing happened, then chakra began to actually become visible. It looked like lightning. The lightning blade, explained Kakashi. He turned to a large boulder behind him and slammed his hand into it. The chakra tore a massive crater into the boulder. Whoa, said Naruto. Now start by gathering a large amount of chakra in your hand, said Kakashi. Naruto did as he was instructed and poured almost half his chakra reserves into his hand. Now the signs, said Kakashi again. Naruto obeyed. He held his right wrist, but unlike Kakashi, his palm was down. He felt a jolt of electricity arc between his thumb and middle finger, then the unexpected happened. The chakra that was just starting to take shape, exploded. Naruto was knocked onto his back. Not enough focus, said Kakashi, again. Naruto climbed to his feet, flashed through the signs and built up his chakra. More focus, said Kakashi. Concentrate. I am Kansen. Naruto was cut off by another explosion. Again he wound you on his back. Damn it, he exclaimed, jumping to his feet. Kakashi opened his mouth to say something, but the look on Naruto's face told him, Naruto was in grindstone mode. He would be out here for 4 days straight if that's what it took. Heaving a sigh, Kakashi settled against the boulder behind him to read, the sound of explosions and curses his only company. Naruto wiped the dripping sweat from his brow. He'd been at this for 3 days now, only sleeping when it was absolutely necessary. He did the ox, rabbit, monkey hand signs and built up his chakra in his hand. The electricity arced across his fingers. He focused on the center on his palm. Slow the lightning grew and grew up until his covered his whole hand. Yes, he said and spun around and smashed his hand into the boulder next to the crater Kakashi had made 3.5 days earlier. The lightning dissipated. No crater, no nothing. It was like it had never been there in the first place. What the? He stared at his hand confused. Looks like you've got the first step down, said Kakashi as he walked up the hill towards Naruto. But remember what I said. Focus at the point of impact. He placed his hand on the boulder. This is the point of impact. You have to transfer the energy in your hand to the face of the boulder, and do it without letting the lightning lose any potency or force. Right, said Naruto. He formed the seals and built the lightning in his hand. Then turned to the boulder and drove his hand at it. Halfway there the lightning fizzled out and Naruto hit the boulder with a curled fingered palm strike, and it didn't feel good. Keep the flow going and at the last minute add an extra burst of chakra and drive all the energy into the boulder, said Kakashi. Naruto nodded and tried again. The lightning hit the rock and made a tiny little nick. Damn it, yelled Naruto. That was closer, said Kakashi. Well, you seem to have the general idea. Dinner is at 7 if you're hungry. And with that the copy ninja walked back down the hill toward the little inn he and his student were staying in. Yeah, thanks a lot, muttered Naruto. He tried again and again, but even time he tried he failed. One time the nick would get bigger, then the next time, it wouldn't work at all. For 5 days he tried. Naruto sat on the ground gasping for breath. He was exhausted, more than exhausted. Sweat poured off his body, pooling on the ground. I need a bigger burst of chakra, he said aloud, that's all I need. He leapt to his feet. Ox, rabbit, monkey. The lightning built up in his hand, he raced at the boulder and drove his hand at it. A split second before his hand hit the boulder he pictured a blot of lightning shooting down his arm and out his palm. The jutsu hit the boulder, the rock resisted for a second and exploded. Yes, exclaimed Naruto. Good, now let's keep working on it, said Kakashi. End flashback. He gripped his wrist, palm down. Nothing happened for a second, then the lightning began arcing, the chirping ensued. Wow, said Haru, he's never done that before. It's amazing, his chakra is visible, said Sakura, but what is it and what is the weird noise? It's a jab, said Guy from next to Kakashi, but this jab is unlike any other. Naruto held his right arm out to his side and sprinted down the wall. It's the only weapon in Kakashi's arsenal he didn't copy from someone else, said Guy. Naruto hit the ground running, racing at Gaara's cocoon. It's a technique solely bases on the user's speed and ability to focus his chakra at the point of impact, explained Guy. When these two components, speed and focus, reach a certain level, the chakra becomes visible and give off the distinct noise you hear, like birds chirping. Naruto dodged through the sand spears, bringing his arm up in a like position. It is this sound that give the technique its name, said Guy. Naruto's hand hit the sand and drove through it. He hit something soft, driving partially through it. Chidori, said Guy. 1,000 birds, also known as lightning blade. Lightning blade, questioned Haru. Why's that? It's got that name because Kakashi once used it to cut a bolt of lightning in half before it could touch the ground, answered Guy. The genin were speechless. Naruto gripped what he now knew was Gaara's shoulder. The sand began to pour away, revealing Gaara, his left shoulder torn to shreds. Damn, thought Naruto, I missed. He let go and leapt away when he saw the crazed look in Gaara's eye. Gaara's right hand gripped his left shoulder and he pulled it away, looking at it in bewilderment. What is this? He mumbled. Then realization seemed to hit him. Blood. It's my blood, he screamed. Naruto readied himself for an attack but faltered when he heard an explosion. He looked to his left where he knew the Hokage and Kazekage sat. The balcony was covered in smoke. Gaara's siblings and sensei joined him on the ground. Get Gaara out of here, said their sensei. The two obeyed immediately. Naruto faltered, unsure of what to do. He was joined by his own teacher and teammates, with Genma as well. Naruto, Haru, Sakura, said Kakashi, go after those three, stop them, kill them if you have to. But how? Asked Haru. We have no way of know which way they went. Kakashi pressed his kunai to his thumb. Summoning jutsu. He pulled his hand from the ground and there sat a pug-like dog. Pokken here will lead you. Right, said Naruto, lead the way Pokken. You got it, replied the dog and leapt off the three genin hot on his heels. So you sand ninja broke the treaty, said Kakashi addressing the sand sensei, but I can't see the sand doing this on their own, who's helping you? Or are you doing the helping? Don't know, said the sand sensei, and don't care, I already killed one of you. Figured I'd finish off the rest. So you're the one who killed Hayate, said Kakashi. The former proctor's body had been found the night before on a rooftop in the eastern edge of the village. The punk you coughed all the time? Asked the sand ninja. Yeah, that was me. Then I think it's only fair, said Kakashi, forming the ox hand sign, I return the favor. Naruto stretched his body flat as he leapt between two tree branches following Kakashi's dog, Pakun. The miniature pug had led them at a breakneck pace in pursuit of Gaara and his siblings, the result being that they were closing in on the trio fast. It was probably due to the older two sand ninja being slowed by dragging Gaara along with them. Naruto looked to his left and right at Sakura and Haru. Haru's face was a bit pale. Having come out of a fight with Neji, his chakra was down below half, so the discolor in his face was understandable. Sakura on the other was looking just fine, a bit red from the insane pace Naruto and Pakun was setting, but other than that she was looking fine. Naruto glanced at their canine companion. He had to admit the animal had impressed him. Its ability to pick up Gaara's scent so quickly and then move this fast was defiantly something that they could use in the future. Pakun, hollered Naruto, how close would you say we are? The small pug looked over his shoulder. We should catch up to them in roughly 5 minutes, the pug announced. You better get yourself ready however you need to. Naruto nodded the pug before glancing at each of his teammates. Sakura steeled her resolve. Haru closed his eyes, focusing on replenishing as much of his chakra as possible. Naruto on the other hand began gathering his own chakra in his right arm, fingertip to shoulder joint, just like Kakashi had taught him. The maneuver he was about to attempt could give the jump on their opponents they needed. He flashed through his hand signs: ox, rabbit, monkey. It was tougher than he thought, charging up Chidori and running through the canopy off the vast forest surrounding the village. He stumbled once, nearly falling to the forest floor, but his quick reflexes enabled him to catch a lower branch and hurtle back into the canopy. Naruto, are you okay? Asked Sakura. Fine, came his short response. It hurt him to be so short and blunt with Sakura, but he had to focus on charging his attack. Look sharp, guys, said Pakun, we're almost there. Naruto put all but a small amount of focus into charging his move. Finally, when they nearly caught the sand ninja, the telltale noise of his Chidori began. He heard Sakura's sharp gasp, causing him to look back at them. I'm going to launch a surprise attack with my Chidori, he told them, causing them look at him in concern. It's the only way we can throw them off balance, think about it, you know it's true. The other two members of Team 7 couldn't argue with his logic. Naruto led the charge of the three into a large clearing where the sand shinobi were resting. Sakura and Haru remained in the shadow of the trees while Naruto leapt into the open, bearing down on the three wielding his Chidori. Flying through the air, Naruto zeroed in on Gaara and slammed the Chidori. The impact created a massive explosion, and threw a huge dust cloud. When it settled, Gaara, Tamari, and Kankuro all stood facing Naruto, who was standing in the middle of a crater. The three had managed to dodge it, barely. Well, said Kankuro in a condescending tone, if it isn't that kid with that crazy eye. Shut up, Kankuro, said Gaara as he drew himself to full height. The wound in his shoulder was still bleeding, but he seemed to have gained most of his strength back. Sure, Gaara, said Kankuro. But really, kid, what do you intend to do, fight all three of us alone? Asked Tamari. As soon as she finished her sentence, Sakura and Haru appeared on either side of Naruto. We'll leave Gaara to you, Naruto, said Haru, we'll handle the other two. Oh really, you're gonna handle us? Asked Kankuro. We'll see about that. The four shinobi leapt into the air, leaving Naruto and Gaara to square off against one another. The two shinobi stared at each other, Gaara crazed eyes boring into Naruto's mix-matched eyes. Normally no one would dare meet the gaze of Sharingan. Gaara, however, was so far gone, Naruto's hypnotic eye had no effect on the crazed sand ninja. So you choose to face me? Said Gaara in a low tone. I will stop you, said Naruto. I don't care if you do act like a demon, I have the real thing inside of me. A demon inside of you, huh? Asked Gaara. My demon is as real as yours is, and even now that demon seeks blood, it compels me, it cared for me when the rest of my village pushed me away. I was to be the sand village's ultimate weapon, and so when I was still in my mother womb, my unborn self was fused with the sand sprite Shukaku. However, as my power grew, they all came to fear me and several attempts were made on my life. You see, I killed the woman who gave birth to me. I was born a monster and I will kill you. That is my purpose, my reason for living lies solely in the killing of others. I don't care if that's what you believe, said Naruto, you will not harm the people of this village. Very well, Naruto Uzumaki, said Gaara, you are in my way, therefore you are my prey. With that, the sand carried in Gaara's gourd sprang forth at Naruto. Naruto back flipped out of his way as it slammed into where he was standing. While in the air he flashed through his hand signs. Fire style. Great Fire Ball Jutsu. The massive fire ball was the size of a small house and engulfed Gaara, setting the field ablaze. He landed and quickly pulled his kunai off his hips. As the large fire ball dissipated, Gaara stood in the center, but he'd changed, his right arm had become a massive sword of claw. He'd used it as a shield and protected himself from Naruto's attack. Naruto wasted no time in charging his opponent. Gaara attacked with his massive arm, driving Naruto several feet back where he rolled across the ground several times. He came with more hand signs. Fire style. Phoenix Flower Jutsu. The 15-minute fire balls raced at Gaara, hitting him from all angles. Gaara again blocked with his arm. Damn it, he thought, jutsu of this level aren't working, I'm gonna have to hit him with Chidori but. Flashback. Naruto gasped and panted as her stared at the rock in front of him. Filed with 3 small craters. Not bad, praised Kakashi, looks like with all your other jutsu you can still use the Chidori 3 times. Naruto looked at the rock and glared. Hey, don't get like that, said Kakashi, it's only because the rest of your chakra is suppressing the influence of the 9 tails, and as you get stronger you'll be able to use it even more. What would happen if I tried to use it more than 3 times? Asked Naruto. Kakashi his head to the side. Well, not only would it not work, said Kakashi, the chakra used to suppress the 9 tails would rush to fill the void and you would unleash its power. All in all, very bad things. End flashback. If I don't hit him with this and do some significant damage, I'm going to be at a serious disadvantage, he thought. Gaara charged him, bearing down at him with his massive claw. Naruto did a backhand spring to evade and throw 3 kunai as a distraction. Gaara simply blocked them with his arm. The sand seemed impenetrable as if it were made of iron. Naruto knew that if he could get any space between him and Gaara, then he'd never be able to use Chidori. He crossed his fingers. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. The 24 clones would provide the distraction he needed. They charged Gaara, who destroyed half of them in a single sweep of his arm. Ox, rabbit, monkey. He flashed through his hand signs and gripped his bicep to charge the attack. It took longer than he'd had hoped, and soon all the clones were destroyed and Gaara was charging at him again. Naruto sprinted at him to meet his charge. The 2 collided and Chidori ripped through Gaara's arm. Gaara let out a blood-curdling scream and fell to his knees. He was panting, his face contorted in pain. Then it calmed and a sadistic smile split his face seemingly in 2. Sand poured from the boy's gourd again, covering his body, twisting it into something perverse. Into the sand demon Shukaku. Then Gaara attacked. The sand was so fast Naruto didn't know what was happening until the sand began to snake up his leg, preparing for the sand coffin jutsu. Oh. Haru wasn't sure how long he'd last as he leapt after Kankuro. His fight with Neji had left him low on chakra. He knew he'd have to end things fast, but that thing he had on his back, it was some sort of puppet from what Sakura had said. The little bit he knew about shinobi who fought with puppets suggested that they hid a wide array of secret weapons in the puppet's body. Haru wanted to end this fight quickly, so he decided to attack with one of his strongest attacks. He flashed through his hand signs. Earth style. Stone shuriken, he murmured. Kankuro looked around him as the countless stone shuriken rose from the ground. Well, this should be interesting, said Kankuro. The hundreds of shuriken flew at Kankuro, who leapt into the air attempting to escape. He landed a few feet away, breathing slightly heavier. A few of the shuriken had hit mostly in the leg and arm. He pulled them out while glaring at Haru. After the last one was removed, he straightened and pulled his puppet off his back. So let's see how well you handle this, he said, and with that attacked Haru. The puppet flew at Haru, its ominous clicking noise reaching Haru's ears and instantly annoying the hell out of him. The puppet extended its hand, a blade sprang from its wrist. Haru dove to the left, coming up wielding his trusty demon wind shuriken. He deflected the puppet's next attack and aimed the shuriken at its master. Kankuro ducked the weapon and attacked again with the puppet. Haru ducked the attack and had to block the other blade the puppet had extended from its other wrist with a kunai. He pushed it away and the puppet opened its mouth. 3 purple balls flew out of it and exploded at Haru's feet. A thick purple smog surrounded him. Damn it, he said. The poison gas engulfed him, blocking Kankuro's view of him. Kankuro let out a throaty laugh. He knew he'd killed that annoying leaf ninja and was going to take his body back to the village to burn. However, when the gas cleared away, Haru was nowhere to be seen. Kankuro let out a gasp and began frantically looking around. Damn it, where is he? Growled out Kankuro as his crow puppet dove in and out of bushes looking for the kid. Where? He heard Haru's disembodied voice. Then a hand burst out of the ground and grabbed his ankle, let something out of a horror movie. Earth style. Headhunter jutsu, said Haru. Kankuro felt himself sucked into the ground, only his head was left above ground, then he felt something bind his wrists. Crow fell to the ground, useless. Haru burst from the ground in front of him. Well, that should take care of you, he said, but just in case, he start making signs again. Earth style. Domed prison jutsu. A dome arose from the ground and covered Crow. Ignoring Kankuro's curses and threats, he gazed around the field. Gaara and Naruto were locked in heavy combat. When fighting a foe like Gaara, Haru knew he'd just be in the way. He raced off, to help Sakura. Oh. Sakura charged Tamari and aimed a kick at her head. Tamari blocked it with her large fan and pushed Sakura back. Sakura flipped in the air and landed on her feet. She knew thrown weapons were useless against Tamari, having watched Tenten fight her in the prelims. On top of that, Tamari was a good strategist, not as clever as Shikamaru, few were, but more clever than Sakura. Sakura was going to have to win this fight, through superior ninjutsu. She did, however, have one trick up her sleeve, her genjutsu. She hadn't had to use it in the fight against Ino, so Tamari had yet to see it. The only problem was that Sakura still hadn't mastered it yet, and it took a bit longer than desired to build up the chakra than desired, plus it took heavy taxes on her chakra. So for now she was limited to her water jutsu, not that there was any problem with that, she knew several and they were quite powerful. And as even more of a bonus, there was a river not too far away. Tamari looked at Sakura with a smirk, confidence evident on her face. Sakura glared at her. She wasn't about to let this girl intimidate her. She dug her feet into the ground, ready for the girl to attack. Tamari drew her fan back and swung hard at Sakura. Wind Scythe Jutsu. The massive cyclone roared at Sakura. Sakura flashed through hand signs. Water style. Water gun. The two attacks collided and fought for dominance before slowly dissipating. Well, said Tamari, it looks like you have some skill after all. Sakura glared at her and charged, making her hand signs. Water style. Water dragon missile. Shouted Sakura. Tamari's eyes grew large as the river behind Sakura seemed to come to life. The water took on the very shape of a dragon and roared at Tamari. Tamari tried to leap out the way. Her wind would have no effect on a jutsu of that size. The water crashed into her and slammed her into a tree, where she stayed pinned until it died down. She slow dragged herself to her feet. This pink hair, princess, had surprised her. She used her fan as a makeshift crutch. Sakura. They both looked to see Haru running towards them. He was pale. He stumbled and fell to his knees at Sakura's feet. Haru, what's wrong? Asked Sakura, keeping an eye on Tamari. Nothing. He gasped out. I came to lend you a hand. Sakura looked down at him, bewildered. He'd beaten Kankuro. He truly had grown. Well, I won't say your help isn't appreciated, said Sakura, but are you in the best shape? 2 fights in 1 day is a lot for anyone to handle, yet alone 3. Haru climbed to his feet and steeled his resolve. I'll be alright, he said, I've got enough chakra for 1 more jutsu. Sakura looked at him wearily but knew that this was her best chance to finish off Tamari and go help Naruto like she wanted to. Alright, she said, I'll attack her, you look for an opening and use Jujutsu, hopefully it will be enough to take her out. Haru nodded and turned to face off against Tamari. Tamari attacked with her wind scythe jutsu. The cyclone hit where they were throwing a massive dust cloud. Haru and Sakura leapt to either side. Haru started charging and making his hand signs. Too slow, yelled Tamari and threw 3 shuriken. Haru was so concentrated on the jutsu he didn't dodge. The 3 weapons hit him in the chest, dropping him to the ground. Haru, shouted Sakura before glaring at Tamari, you'll pay for that bitch. She started flashing through signs faster than she even had before. Tamari smirked. She wasn't about to be hit by the same jutsu again. She began to leap out of the way. Terror gripped her when she found out she couldn't. Something was anchoring her to the earth. She looked down and saw 2 hands sticky out of the ground. Now Sakura, she heard someone say. Water style. Water bullets. Screamed Sakura. She slowly advanced on the sand genin, pounding her with heavy shots. Soon she fell unconscious. Sakura dropped her hands and let out a bit of a sigh. Haru popped out of the ground and collapsed, completely exhausted. Haru, yelled Sakura and dropped down next to him. I'm okay, he murmured, go help Naruto. I know you want to. With that Haru passed out. Pakun, she yelled. Kakashi's ninja hound leapt from the cover of the trees. What is it, Sakura? He asked. Can you look after Haru while I go and give Naruto a hand? She asked the ninja hound. Sure, Sakura, answered the pug, you just be careful. Sakura nodded at the dog and leapt off to help Naruto. Oh. This is bad, thought Naruto as the sand snaked up his leg, this is really bad. His only hope was that maybe this was sand from the ground, not sand from Gaara's gourd. He ran through his hand signs. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Shouted Naruto, putting his first 2 fingers to his mouth. He exhaled, covering the sand in a huge ball of fire. He put as much of his chakra if he dared into it. As the flame died down, Naruto saw that this was indeed sand from the earth. Drawing a kunai, he stabbed the glass, shattering it. He leapt back, doing a back handspring, and landed on one knee. He had several cuts in his leg now. Naruto. He heard a female cry from his left. He turned to see Sakura running at him. She raced to his side and squared off against Gaara, who was recovering from his failed jutsu. Sakura, what are you doing here? He demanded, not remembering to look at Gaara. Before she could answer him, Naruto was hit in the side by Gaara's arm, which had somehow managed to extend from where he was. Naruto flew several feet before landing hard on his side and rolled to his back. Giant sand storm, shouted Gaara and gave a great exhale. Sand flew from his mouth right at Naruto. Sakura, however, at the last minute leapt in the way, taking the full blast of it. After the wind died down, she fell to her knees and then onto her side. Gaara looked shocked. Why had that girl saved him? It didn't make sense to him. She should live for herself, not others. Naruto watched Sakura fall in slow motion. A vision of Sasuke came racing back to him. Flashback. Naruto uncrossed his arms from over his head. He had felt no pain. In front of him, Sasuke stood, his arms out wide. The Senbon that had been meant for him were now in Sasuke's chest and arms. Slowly the Uchiha turned to look at him. You should see your face, he said. You look like a total loser. With that, the Uchiha fell to the ground coughing, trying to clear his lungs of the blood that was quickly filling them. End flashback. No, thought Naruto. No, please, not again. He leapt to his feet and ran to Sakura's side. Sakura. Sakura. He gently shook her, trying to get her to look at him. Slowly she looked at him, her eyes unfocused. Naruto. She asked, looking confused. What happened? You took the full brunt of that attack, he said. Why? I had to, she explained. You mean too much to me. With that, the girl fell silent, her eyes closing. Sakura. Sakura. Screamed Naruto. Tears stung at his eyes. Behind him he heard Gaara's deep throaty laughter. He wiped around, tears flying. You just shut the hell up. He screamed. His emotions were all over the place. Gaara charged at Naruto. Naruto stood over Sakura intent on protecting her. Suddenly Gaara seemed to slow down. He swung at Naruto, his movement seemed sluggish. Naruto ducked the swing and hit Gaara with a strong uppercut, knocking him on his back. What's going on? He pondered out loud. He was so caught up in his wonder that he didn't see Gaara's next blow coming. He saw it at the last second and ducked. It caught him on the top of his head, tearing his headband off. It fell to the ground in front of him. His reflection was in the metal protector. What he saw caused him to start. His Sharingan had changed. It had been a level 2. Now it was a level 3. That's why he'd been able to read Gaara's physical attack. Gaara charged him, so Naruto left the headband where it was and ducked under the swing. Then he leapt over another one and flipped out of the way of a third one. Gaara, growing more and more frustrated, let out a furious growl. Suddenly, Gaara exploded. Sand flew in all directions. Naruto covered his face with his arms. After the dust cloud died down, he gasped at what he saw. Standing in front of him was the sand spirit Shukaku. Crap, he said, I've only got one chance. I hope something crazy happens. He slashed his thumb with his kunai. Boar, dog, bird, monkey, sheep. He slammed his hand on the ground. Summoning jutsu. He felt his chakra drain, and he was in a huge cloud of smoke. He felt as if he was being shoved into the sky. When the smoke cleared, he found himself standing on top of a massive red toad. He stepped back as the toad shifted, looking around. Behind Naruto, still laying down, was Sakura. Naruto knelt down and held her tight to him, keeping her from falling. Hey, where the hell am I? Demanded the toad. Who the hell summoned me? I did, said Naruto from atop his head. And who the hell are you? Demanded the toad. Naruto Uzumaki. He replied, yourself. I am Chief Gamabunta, said the toad. Okay, Chief, I hate to bother you, but I could really use your help right now, said Naruto. Gamma looked at the Shukaku. I see, said the toad almost thoughtfully, the Shukaku Gaara suddenly popped out of the Shukaku's forehead. Play possum jutsu, he said, and fell asleep. Suddenly the Shukaku let out a piercing, shrieking laugh. It's so good to finally be released, it exclaimed. That's not Gaara's true voice, said Naruto, bewildered. No, replied Gamma, that is Shukaku, the medium is asleep. To break this jutsu, we have to wake him up. And how do we do that? Asked Naruto. We gotta hit him. Suddenly Shukaku put his hand on his stomach and reared back. It's Shukaku's air bullet. Kid, do you know any fire jutsu? We may be able to turn this to our advantage. A couple, replied Naruto. What do I need to do? Just aim for right in front of my nose, said Gamma. I'll take care of the rest. Naruto flashed through his hand signs. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. He reared back and blew hard. At the same time, Gamma let a spew of oil fly from his mouth. The fire ignited the oil, causing a huge stream of fire. At the same time, Shukaku let go his air bullet. The two jutsus collided. The fire style absorbed the wind style, blustering its power. Shukaku was enveloped in a great geyser of flame. He let out a scream as it scorched his skin. Gamma used the distraction to close the distance. Oh, that really hurt, he screamed when the fire finally died down. Somehow the fire had not reached Gaara. Naruto, leaving Sakura on Gamma's back and asking him to watch out for her, leapt from Gamma's back and landed in front of Gaara. One swift punch and Gaara awoke. What? Exclaimed Shukaku. What I just got here. Shukaku disintegrated into sand. Gaara and Naruto both fell out of the sky, landing hard on the ground. Naruto dragged himself to his feet and glared at Gaara, who was mimicking him. Why? Asked Gaara. I don't understand. Why would you do this for anyone but yourself? Because they saved me, said Naruto, from turning into you. Gaara's face looked awestruck. He dropped his aggressive stance and stared at Naruto. Suddenly he was joined by his siblings intent on killing Naruto. As they stepped forward, Gaara's voice stopped them. Tamari, Kankuro, he started before dropping to his hands and knees. That's enough, it's over. They hesitated for a minute before picking him up. Yeah, okay Gaara, said Kankuro. The three siblings leapt off, leaving their leaf opponents far behind. Naruto raced to Sakura, who the chief had just laid on the ground before disappearing. He fell to his knees, unable to hold his own weight. Sakura, he called out. She stirred slightly and looked at him. They shared a smile, a real smile. They were alive. Oh 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 oh. Kakashi leapt through the trees looking for his team. They'd been gone for 3 hours. The battle in the village was over. The leaf shinobi had drove out the invading sound and sand ninja, however the third had lost his life fight Orochimaru. He was beginning to get worried. He had confidence in their abilities, but he wondered if he'd made a mistake sending Naruto after Gaara. Just as he was about to give up hope, he stumbled across a clearing. Inside sat 3 people and a dog. Naruto, Sakura, Haru, he said, landing a few feet away. There you are. They all 3 turned and looked at him. Each was banged up. Sakura had bruising on most of her body. Her hair was a mess and her face was pale. Haru was pale, sickly pale. Kakashi knew it was due to chakra exhaustion, and he was favoring his left leg. Naruto looked the worse. His clothing was torn to ribbons, and his headband was missing. His shirt hung off his body, exposing most of his upper body. His torso was covered in wounds and blood. Blood was matted in his golden hair and he was limping. You've all been through hell, so that makes what I have to tell you even harder, he said. The Hokage is dead and Sakura, so are your parents.